Welcome back everyone. Today we're diving into the cities of Sigmar Spearhead and reviewing the entire army, including the battle threat, regiment abilities, enhancements, and of course, how well the Castelite Company does against other spearheads.
Steady yourselves, lads! Raise your shields and stir your spirits! I've never lost a battle, and I don't intend to start today!
Cavalier Marshal Gillam, Merkenroth of Setwar's Gain. Cities of Sigmar is one of my favorite factions and one of my favorite spearheads. And to be honest with you, I have every spearhead box, and I have played close to at least a dozen games with each of these boxes. So who are the Castelite Company, as the spearhead is called? They're a ragtag band of mortal men who, let's face it, have been on the receiving end of some serious chaos oppression. But instead of folding, they've rallied and are now ready to stand their ground against the onslaught of the Dark Gods and their sycophants across the mortal realms. The Castelite Company consists of the following models and units. There is 1 free guild Cavalier Marshal, 10 free guild Steel Helms, 5 free guild Cavalier, and 1 Iron-Weld Great Cannon. So now you can see some of the pros and cons I've outlined, and basically you have a great battle threat, which was updated in December 2024, and I talked about this update at length in another video, which you can see on the screen. And another pro here is that you can resurrect your rank and file units. You also have a great artillery unit. The cavalry is really tanky and can be paired with the free guild Cavalier Marshal to hit really hard. And now I know you may be tempted to keep your Cavalier Marshal with your free guild Steel Helms, but I'm not quite sure if this is always viable or even advisable. They also have a strong objective control, and they can use Ward 6+ on their free guild Steel Helms, which I personally think it's really good when you're trying to hold an objective and just make your opponent spend resource on you holding that objective. Now, as to the cons, universally they hit and wound on 4+, which reduces their damage output potential. You really want the artillery to hit, because nothing feels as underwhelming as having that huge damage dealer miss the roll. Oh, it just feels so bad. And you can outflank and pin down, although I'll be honest with you, I feel this is a bit of a overgeneralization here, since the spearhead format often comes down to not being able to really engage and disengage, unless you're something like Dark of Raiders or Skaven. The Officer's Order is the only battle threat that your spearhead can have. This threat will allow you to use the command of a battle tactic card twice. You set a card at the beginning of your turn aside and then use its command ability, but instead of discarding it, when you do use the ability, the card returns to your hand. Previously, the battle threat said once per battle, but it has been changed to once per battle round, and that's a huge difference. There are many good cards that you can rely on as a result. Again, I talked about this at length in my other video. For example, Scroll of Arcane Bolt allows you to do a bit of extra damage. Stand guard will grant one of your friendly units a strike first ability. Now, moving on, we want to talk about the regiment abilities. Of course, you get to pick one, and you can choose between
For Sigmar, charge!
or Iron-Weld Discipline. In the case of
For Sigmar,
charge, I promise to stop doing this. You use it in your charge phase and use this regiment ability before any charge abilities are used in said phase. Now, the effect is that a friendly cavalry unit that charge this phase will have the strike first this turn. Now, this is really good because your cavalry gets extra damage if they have charged, and having the ability to also strike first can help you perhaps even wipe an entire unit that you see as crucial for your opponent's success or their strategy, and so on. Now, you can also try the Iron-Weld Discipline. Essentially, it allows you to pick your Iron-Weld Great Cannon and use the shoot ability as if it were your shooting phase. Of course, you have to wait for the opponent to shoot first, use all their abilities in said shooting phase, and then you can retaliate with a salvo of your own Ironweld Great Cannon. You only have one martial, and what enhancement you pick will matter a lot. In the Spearhead format, generals get 4 distinct options, and arguably each one can be viable. In our case, we have the Flask of Levision Darkwater, the Heirloom Blade, the Brazier of Holy Flame, and Glimmering. The only enhancement that I have something against is the Brazier of Holy Flame, which allows you to return D3 slain models to your units of 3 Guild Steelhelms. Now it's a good ability to have, allowing you to arguably resurrect models twice per round, but I still find it a bit underwhelming. I think Flask of Levision Darkwater is an amazing ability that allows you to quickly heal your general a d6 die, and that is good, providing that your general, of course, can last in the round. You know, like you can try and bait your opponent to do a bit of damage, but of course, if it's a little more experienced player, they'll know that you have a d6 healing, so they'd say, okay, I'm either gonna take the martial or I'm gonna probably stay away from it. Next, you have the Heirloom Blade, which is a good way to boost your damage. Add 1 to the rend characteristic to the Master Forged Longsword. Now, this I think is a good enhancement to have, and I feel it helps you add, you know, a lot to your damage output, because let's face it, 2 rend is tremendous. It's amazing. Do you take this though? I think yeah, it can be amazing and provide you, you know, like providing that you get your hits and wounds. I think that rend 2 and damage 2 per die can be, well, pretty overwhelming, yeah? And this being said, the last enhancement to check though is Glimmering, which allows you to reroll 1 die for hit, 1 for wound, or 1 for save in each phase. So now it's time to discuss the units and their abilities, how they perform, and what I have noticed in my time of playing the Cities of Sigmar Spearhead. First, we're going to start with the big boy, the 3 Guild Cavalier Marshal. So yes, we have our hero here, who is also a cavalry and general. He has the ability Decisive Commander, which means that you roll a 2+ and then can apply one of 2 effects to a 3 Guild Steelhelm unit that is wholly within 12 inches, by the way. The 2 effects are On Your Feet, which allows you to return D3 slain models to that unit, but only if the unit is not in combat. So, thank you, Games Workshop, I guess. So, like, and then you have Yield No Quarter, or as I'd say it, Yield No Quarter, which will add 3 to the target unit's control score until the start of your next turn. Naturally, I find this effect to be slightly more viable and really just easier to put on the battlefield. Now, the Marshal himself has a ranged weapon which can shoot in combat, hitting on 3+ and wounding on 4+. You roll 2 attacks for it, and well, it's decent. Now you can also hit with the Master Forged Longsword in the combat phase, which comes with 5 attacks, hits on a 3+, and wounds on a 4+. It also has a rend characteristic of 1 or 2 if you've taken the Heirloom Blade, and also the sword deals 2 damage. Your companion will have 2 attacks, hit on 5+, wound on 3+, and there is no rend characteristic here, and you deal 1 damage per successful wound that has not been saved by your opponent. Now, the Marshal is fairly tanky. He comes with 7 health, has a save on 3+, and can move up to 10 inches. Next, we have the Ironweld Great Cannon. It has 2 ranged weapons, either the cannonball or grape shot. Usually, you only get to shoot the cannonball once, and if you're successful, you can do quite a bit of damage with that. Of course, if you've taken the Ironweld Discipline, there is a good chance that if you go first, you shoot the cannonball twice, and hopefully you won't miss, like I've done so many times. Now, if your opponent does not have get to the ground, you can do a lot of damage, providing you hit. You know, and then you also have a rend characteristic of 2, and each successful die will be D3 damage plus 2. Mamma mia! It feels like pineapple on a pizza here. The grape shot still does a pretty good job, as it allows you to front 5 attacks, and both hit and wound on a 3+, which I personally find to be a lot more viable. You do 2 damage if you manage to overcome the save and ward rolls here, and it's pretty good. Now, the shoot and shell ability of the Unweld Great Cannon instructs you that if you intend to shoot the cannonball, you need to be static and you cannot move. The grape shot, though, allows you to move, but your move characteristic is 3 inches, which adds to the 12 inches range. Nevertheless, the upside of the cannonball is that you have 24 inches, meaning that you can open with a strong salvo, especially if you're, if you actually land your hits and wounds and so on. Now, if your opponent chooses to pin you down and force you into melee combat, the Unweld Great Cannon cannot do that much. It only has 2 attacks that hit and wound on 4+, and no rend characteristic, and damage of just 1 per successful roll. This being said, the Unweld Great Cannon is pretty beefy at 8 health and not too underwhelming 4+ save. Next we have the Free Guild Steelhelms, who are very, they're everyday infantry pitted against gears. Those can be, of course, a little underwhelming, but nothing too crazy here, since most of this type of unit in the Age of Sigmar Spearhead format tends to be like that. So the Free Guild Steelhelms can be quite decent. They have a 4+ hit and wound roll, no rend though, and they only contribute 1 point of damage to the damage pool. They have a 4+ save, 1 health, 1 control score, 1 attack. Now, what makes this unit interesting, however, is the Consecrate the Land ability. In this case, you're going to pick an objective that is not contested by an enemy model or a unit. Roll a die, and on a 3+, you're going to Consecrate the Land, giving you a 6+ ward save, in other words. And it makes a lot of sense to move the Free Guild Steelhelms forward and get, to a good mid position on the map. Resurrecting these is indeed quite easy, but you probably have to rely on the Brazier of Holy Flame rather than the Cavalier Marshal's Decisive Commander, because the former actually allows you to resurrect models even if the unit is in combat. Right, and now we should talk about the MVPs of the Cities of Sigmar Spearhead, the Free Guild Cavaliers! Now these guys are surprisingly tanky, and even though a game with Cities of Sigmar can feel a little underwhelming sometimes, and even if the battlefield looks completely lost, there is one beacon of hope, and that is the Free Guild Cavaliers. Trust me when I say this, I've seen how exasperated opponents get trying to down these guys. They just refuse to die. Anyway, the Free Guild Cavaliers are a remarkable unit of 5 models, each worth 3 health, moving 10 inches and rolling a 3+ save. The hit and wounds are a bit but it's 4+ to wound and 4+ to hit. They have 1 rend and they do 1 damage. But if you have charged this round, you get 2 damage in total. They do have 5 attacks each for a total of 15 attacks. And of course, the companions who have 2 attacks each. So that's a lot of dice, basically. Now, you do want to go ahead and charge with this unit because you also get to use the Devastating Charge ability, which is basically you roll a d6 and on a 2+, you inflict d3 mortal damage. And this unit can really wreak havoc on the battlefield and completely wipe out an elite unit or even a hero. So the cavalry is really strong here, and it really stands out immediately. Now, I do want to mention something here, and that is the Regiment ability, which is For Sigmar Charge! And it basically lets a friendly cavalry unit use the Strike First ability. As you can imagine, this is really good since you will be able to make good use of your abilities, guarantee those D3 mortal wounds, get that extra point of damage, and so on and so on. But hey, the Free Guild Cavaliers are tremendous and I love them so much. Alright, so what's next then? I suppose we should take a look at the power rankings, and I'm going to be simply discussing here and not really citing any evidence-based data outside, of course, our channel's hands-on experience, as I don't think there is a clear ranking of Spearhead's power just yet, but we're working on one such video here at Age of Minis. But it definitely takes a long while to complete that because we simply need to clock in the games, get a good feeling of each army, and then, come up with a proper way to rank them. Now, Cities of Sigmar is not the toughest spearhead in the game, and it definitely has some weaknesses that tend to really force a player to make compromises, to feel like they need to constantly be on the back foot, But if there is one thing that I have learned is that being a little offensive, a little more offensive even, with Cities of Sigmar Spearhead tends to pay off a bit better than simply letting your opponent hem you in on all sides and dictate the pace of battle. By spreading yourself farther afield, you actually create a situation in which your opponent has to also contend for objectives or travel longer to, say, lock down your Ironweld Great Cannon, which is good because the unit is very tanky, so it will let you fight against one unit less. But can we really pin Cities of Sigmar anywhere in comparison to other spearheads? I would say that the Castelite Company is competitive, but it does seem to be in that lower, maybe 40%, I would hazard a guess here. This doesn't mean that you're constantly going to lose, especially with the way the officer's order has been updated these days, and it can be tremendously impactful to have the command card played twice. All in all, Cities of Sigmar, the Castelite Company, is a fun, well-rounded spearhead that has a lot to offer. It may be a little challenging sometimes, but it's a challenge that I'm willing to accept. Thank you so much for joining me for the Age of Minis Cities of Sigmar Spearhead review. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you keep coming back for more such content. In the meantime, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, comment in the section below. Until next time, and happy